Hello. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm back here on a live. I've been active. It's been good. I'm gonna let this notify people that I am live, so I'm just kind of settling into my space before we go into what we're talking about today. Alright, so it's 2:52. I normally start yin energy exchanges about 10 minutes before the guest arrives. So at about 3 o'clock, Celeste Brooks from Astrology by Celeste will be joining me for a yin energy exchange, and this is the 10th episode. And if you saw my stories, I have been doing this series for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in September of this year. And the whole idea started when I was helping Rebecca Gordon with the Beginner's Astrology course and seeing if anybody else wanted to get certified. And it's kind of funny and full circle that today I'm inviting one of my colleagues from the Beginner's Astrology class. And when I look back at all the people that I've invited on, it's been a really influential, strong group of women. Obviously, not all the women are working in astrology, unlike myself, Celeste, and Rebecca, but I was able to weave in astrology with every conversation, and it's really fun to look back on the different companies that these women run and the communities that they run and how their natal astrology birth chart plays into the work that they're doing. Some of them have been clients of mine, some of them are friends, some of them are old coworkers. Celeste is obviously a fellow student and colleague of mine. So it is fun to kind of look back, and I'm happy that I'm continuing to do this. I think this is a great series, and I'm looking forward to bringing a couple other women on this year. So I already have a couple confirmed, and they'll be coming either monthly or bi-monthly, depending on scheduling, but I will have one next month, I'm pretty sure, and she is someone that I really enjoy as well, and she was a part of my business cohort with Natalia Benson. But I will kind of stop it there. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and spoil all the people that I'm bringing on, but I do want to talk about Celeste. So Celeste and I, like I said, met when we were doing the Beginner's Astrology course with Rebecca Gordon. So Rebecca Gordon Astrology, she has a school. It's been going on for, I don't know what the exact year is. I think it's somewhere between 18 and 25 years or something like that, but it's been a long time, like almost 2 decades where she's had a school. The school's been both in person, and now it is kind of switched to online, and she offers a wide variety of courses. She offers self-paced, so if you didn't want to meet with her like on lives or Zooms, whatever it is, you could do that. She also has webinars all the time, and then she has certification processes. And Kara Ladd, who I invited on here back over the summer, and hers is Boundless Creatives, Boundless by Kara, she was the one that actually pushed me to get certified. She knew that I always really liked astrology. It was just something that both of us really enjoyed talking about when we would get together, and so she pushed me into that certification process, and I'm really happy that she did, because if you go back and listen to like our talk or Rebecca's talks, it was really good for me with such a hard time. And Celeste was a part of that group, and Celeste went on to probably take a couple more classes with Rebecca. I'm excited for her to kind of just share, because I don't really know where she went after Beginner's Astrology, and that was back in 2019. We started in September of 2019. So that will be 3 years from now. And we met in person, and I remember her flying in from wherever she lives to New York City, and then we met online. And I just think that Celeste brought a lot of great comments into the class, a lot of amazing observations. She interpreted my chart one class, and it was like embedded in my memory of how well she did, and how some of the things that she said were so empowering and resonated so much. And now I am looking at what she's doing, and she's doing a fantastic job, especially talking about the moon. And today we are going to be talking about the moon, but not just the moon, because I've already brought someone on to talk about that. It was Mama Eco, but we're actually going to talk about mathematical points in the sky that involve the moon, and it also involves the sun, and it's actually attached to the eclipse season that we have every year. So we just got out of a eclipse season back in 2021, and it actually started a new cycle too, and it's all around the lunar nodes. So Celeste is definitely the mama that has the moon magic, and so that is why I invited her on today to talk about the lunar nodes. This is something that is starting to become more and more talked about in astrology. I really find it to be very fascinating because lunar nodes, the north and the south node, are connected to past lives and your current life. And I've taken courses with Dara Dubonnet about just north noding and how it can make such a big impact on your life. But we're going to focus on really more about eclipses, and also just hear what Celeste has to say about the moon and the lunar nodes. You could call them the nodes, or the north node, south node. So right now the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio, and they just moved back in January. So on February 18th, it will be a full month that the nodes have been in these two signs. Before it was Gemini and Sagittarius, and now we're in Taurus Scorpio eclipse season, and Celeste is here. So I'm gonna go ahead and let her in, but I just did a nice introduction to her, but I'm excited for her to come in, introduce herself, tell us what she does. So let me present to you Astrology Bug. Let's see. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I just did a nice introduction of you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course, I mean, I love what you're doing right now with the moon memos.
Oh, thank you. Well, I didn't hear what you said, so I could.
You have to go back and view it.
I will. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
So hi. Hi.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people are coming in, and it's fun. I briefly, what I said was just that, we were in beginner's astrology together.
Uh-huh.
And that was back in 2019, and I talked about how you flew in from wherever it was to New York, right?
Yes. So I live in Oakland, California, and
Okay.
two other friends took the class at the same time, to Rebecca Gordon's beginner astrology class, and so we all flew in and had like a weekend in New York City. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
This was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know if Rebecca's courses are live. I'm in her course right now, The Art of the Reading, and it's
wonderful.
Yeah, it's all like Zoom, but it's great. Like, it's a lot of breakout sessions, and I touched on how the last in-person session, my chart was up and you interpreted it, and I just remember it being so it was so impactful for me.
Oh, good. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the video.
Yeah, so I want to know, like, after that course and after we got certified, like in April of 2020, what was your route and how, like, how's it been for you? How's Astrology by Celeste?
Yeah. So for anybody who's new to me, yeah, I'm Celeste Brooks, an astrologer, coach, and intuitive. And at the time I was taking those courses, I was a beginner astrologer. And then I was working in corporate. I spent 25 years plus in corporate America. My background is I have my bachelor's in biology and my master's, my MBA, and I was in sales roles for companies that specialized in protein therapeutics. So we would make the therapeutics for customers or sell products to them that help them either in research or making biologics-based drugs for therapies like cancer and things like that. So that's my background. And when I had an awakening, you know, I can almost remember to the day when Uranus went into Taurus. I'm a Taurus sun, Aries moon, Cancer rising. And I
Yeah.
just felt like something was not right. Like, what am I doing with my life? I've been doing this for so long, and it's
Right.
so like my last job was very, very lucrative, but it was very stressful. And yeah, I just felt this need for something different, but I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And the awakening process was, it took a long time. And now Uranus has been getting ready to do the third pass on my 12th degree sun. But last May, I retired from my corporate career early to pursue my career in astrology. So yeah, so I've taken all of Rebecca's courses.
Right.
I took all of Delbert Silverman's courses. I just completed my horary astrology practitioner levels course with the School of Traditional Astrology.
Okay.
So I'm not allowed to take any more classes.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Like,
that one was 20 weeks. Oh my God.
do you feel like from the time that we got certified as beginner, like reading the natal birth chart to now, you're just like, I'm sure it's just like you're able to look at things and just spot them right away.
Yeah. One of the things I did as I was building my practice was I would host events where I would do hot takes from people's charts. And it just really fed my Aries moon. And in fact, I'm having one tomorrow. I do a lot of these, so anyone can follow me at Astrology by Celeste and go to the link in my bio. You don't even have to leave to follow me from here.
Right.
And yeah, so I built up more and more practice to just like, you know, quickly assessing people's charts and talking about what jumped out at me. Now, this is not like a full reading, but there's always, you know, always something that I connect with a chart.
I feel the same way. I pulled up your chart and I liked that, you know, you shared your big three. So you're a Taurus sun, Aries moon, and a Cancer rising. And for me, like, I thought it was great that your sun is in the 11th house and we're in Aquarius season, and you're the first person that I'm bringing on for a yin energy exchange. This is a series that I've done for like 2 years, and you're my 10th like guest, and I'm just feel like, you know, I had an idea that I wanted to ask you on, and then I was like, what can we talk about? And I was like, I've already done the moon, but the lunar nodes I haven't talked about. And then I figured out that you're a Taurus, I'm a Scorpio sun, and we're going to talk about, you know, these lunar nodes and what's going on right now, what's going to happen in the future. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then when I looked at your chart, I was like, oh, her sun's in the 11th house and her moon, you know, like is in Aries, and like I don't have any fire in my chart, so this will be like a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I know. Yes. I know. And then even a step further, I was like, you know, we just did the first quarter of the moon, and you do your moon memos, and you do a really nice job of explaining how it's like a story that unfolds for like, I think that's really fascinating, and I've never seen like another person that does astrology doing that, but that's so true, and I've thought about that before. But then today the moon is in Gemini, which is a great time to talk. And I looked at your moon memo today about just Aquarius, Gemini. It's a day to have a fun conversation. And my moon is in Gemini, so I love to talk. So I'm excited to have you on.
Perfect. Yeah, I have Mars and Venus in Gemini, so
Woo!
yeah, this is great.
And I feel you about the corporate world. Like, I used to work in the corporate world as well, but not 25 years. I worked maybe close to 5 years. But for me, it was just a time to move out. And I remember when you looked at my chart, you did notice like all the activity in the 10th house, and you're like, wow, like something with your career. It's just something. And in that moment, like, I didn't know I wanted to do astrology services for people. But then, like, as time went on and I started to create the services that I provide, I just kept remembering those comments you made. And it was just like so great. Like,
oh, I'm so glad that, that's something I said resonated with you, and hopefully gave you a little nudge to feel confident about making your change.
Right, exactly. So you have a community, and then you have the moon memos where you talk about the sign that the moon is in, whenever it changes. And then, knowing that, like, you do astrology by Celeste, but there is such a strong emphasis with the moon. Why is that? Like, tell us why, because, I mean, I've never really heard the reason why, and I'm really curious.
Yeah, so I'm a Cancer rising, and actually, so the moon is just so impactful to me. I just love the moon, and it was Rebecca Gordon who got me connected into the moon. So if you see with my chart, my moon is in the 10th house, speaking about how emotionally I need to be doing work that feeds me in some ways and that gives me some independence. But my moon is kind of it's feral technically. I mean, it squares my ascendant, and it is opposite Jupiter, but it's really wide. It's like 12 degrees. So a lot of my life, I feel like I just leaned so into that Taurus energy, and not as much into that Aries moon energy, and it would just pop out at times and surprise me and surprise other people. And Rebecca had us start watching what sign the moon was in every day. So she started me on that, and I got the deluxe moon app, and noting how I felt every day. And it was such a revelation. It took about 3 months to connect, like really connect in and sync. And now sometimes I can feel the switch. And I just learned and so much about myself, about, okay, the moon is in Pisces. There's no point in me pushing myself. I need to let myself have some space to just drift. And yeah, when the moon's in Virgo, I intentionally plan, like, this is my time to get my stuff done. When the moon's in a fire sign, I know I need to move my energy, or else I can get overly tired, or things like that. So it just helped me so much to understand what was going on with myself, and helped me planning things, and knowing to talking on the Gemini moon, or presenting when the moon's in Leo, things like that. Just got me started with my love of the moon. And then when I started working with the moon phases, and then things really took off, and I used the moon phases to retire from my career early. So doing different stuff every month, and working with these larger 27-month cycles that also unfold.
I love that, like, because the moon obviously changes signs every 2.5 days, so that's like short term. But to talk about the 20-month cycle, that's long term.
And they all start rolling together. So I think there's an astrologer, Dietrich Pessin, who in her work noticed these cycles that every 9 months approximately, there will be a moon activation, meaning a moon phase where the sun and the moon make a hard aspect to each other, either a conjunction, a square, or an opposition every 9 months at approximately the same degree. And it starts at the new moon. Then 9 months later, there'll be a first quarter moon in the same sign, approximately the same degree. So where we are now, we had a new moon last May at 21 degrees of Taurus. Okay. And yesterday we had a first quarter moon at 19 degrees of Taurus. So this is activating your chart in the same place approximately with a unfolding cycle. Yeah. And you can think back to May, what started, and something may have started in the dark, where either like a week or two before now or a week or two from now, you may see something popping into your life or a need to take action, or like noticing what action you've been taking, even if subconsciously. 9 months from now, there'll be a full moon where the sun will be in Scorpio and the moon will be in Taurus, and they'll all will be revealed in some way, and it will be an eclipse. So yeah, there could be, you know, something that really, really will be revealed. All really will be revealed, and maybe there's a celebration about where you started and where you are. For me, it'll be a year and a half after I retired from my corporate career. Yeah, and then 9 months after that, there'll be a closing quarter moon, last quarter moon, where maybe there'll be like some lessons learned, and you're ready to let things go and start a new story in that area of your life. So yeah,
I love that. And I have the deluxe moon app too, and I love it. And I like to see also, like, is it a waxing or is it a waning, you know? And I feel like when the moon is in Aries, because I don't have a lot of fire, but I have a lot of activation in the first house, I feel it too. And it's interesting because I've been more careful with just, you know, tracking the moon cycles and understanding my emotions when the moon is changing and how I'm feeling or what I want to do. And it's very fascinating, and I agree with you. Like, once you start kind of doing it, you're like, like, what is the moon in today? Because I'm feeling this way. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed is that because I'm 51 now, I'm telling on myself. And so, you know, I'm in perimenopause. And once I started syncing with the moon, my cycles became more regular. Yeah. So that helped that as well. So Definitely. It helped my body sync, because we live in such a solar world where people are going forward so fast and like constantly seeking. Once you get back in touch with that natural rhythm of the wax and the wane, the growth and the decay, the birth and the death, and it starts, your body even will start reconnecting and like letting go of some stress and stuff.
So I feel like we kind of have gone through a couple of the different questions that I want to ask you. But first, before we move forward, what did you want to be when you like grew up as a child? Because I feel like the moon is kind of connected to like our inner child. So was there anything that came up for you, like when you were little, that maybe when you thought back before you put your 2 weeks notice in for your corporate job, like what was it that you wanted to do?
So first I want to say thank you everyone for the nice compliments about me looking good for being an old lady. Yes, thank you. So I always wanted to be a doctor. I had been planning to go to medical school, and then I had an awakening like around so Saturn does these cycles as well, where it's you have these, it's a where you have these squares, these activations, oppositions. And when you're about 21, there's a closing quarter square where Saturn in the sky is in a square to where it is in your natal chart. And I think that it was the time where I decided that, you know, it had a lot to do about a lot of things, but I decided I didn't want to go to medical school. I didn't want to be confronted. Like, I love the idea of being a healer. I have Chiron in the 10th house.
Yeah.
But concern about, you know, dealing with so much death and sickness and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to stay in the sciences, but I decided not to go to medical school. So I decided to, you know, work for life science companies, medical device companies instead. And it's so interesting. Like a year ago, I was looking at some ancestry stuff, trying to find my mother's birth time because she's passed away.
Okay.
And in her like high school yearbook, she said something about how she wanted to be a doctor. And I swear to God, I don't remember her ever saying this, not even once when I was growing up. But maybe somehow I absorbed her dreams into myself. Now, she never did. She was a school teacher. She wound up, motherhood surprise kind of came up on her, you know, and got married and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's what I had originally wanted to be.
I believe the point you made about like maybe absorbing her dreams. I'm reading this book called It Didn't Start With You, and it's about, you know, how, you know, even when it talks about how even though maybe someone's passed away in your family, that their dreams, aspirations, traumas can still live on in other people. So it's really fun to just kind of have this conversation and for you to like admit that you wanted to be a doctor and it didn't work out. Now you've gone to the corporate world. Now you're an astrologist. And I mean, it sounds like you draw a lot of inspiration from the moon, and we kind of went over your big three. And I will give a little interpretation of like what I think of your big three, and then I kind of want to hear from you what you think. But so you have the sun, the planet of ego, in Taurus, which is, for me, I like to look at it as the sign of fertility. And it's in the 11th house, which is the house of friendship. And Taurus is a fixed earth sign. And then moon, which is the planet of the deepest needs, is in Aries, which I look at it as like the sign of life force, because it's, you know, penetrating and starting life. It's in the 10th house, which is the house of vocation, and that's a cardinal fire sign. And then you have a rising in Cancer, which for me, that's the sign of familial memories, which you just kind of talked about how your mom wanted to be a doctor, and then oddly enough, you wanted to be a doctor, but that was nothing that you spoke about with each other. So you almost had like a ET moment where you both kind of wanted something, and that's a cardinal water sign. So when you look at the big three, Celeste, sun, moon, and rising, she has two cardinal signs, earth, fire, and water. But what she doesn't have is air, and it's in that mutable mode. So how do you invite that in, knowing that you don't have that? And then also, I want to just hear what your interpretation of your big three is and how you see it come through with Astrology by Celeste.
Yeah, so I invite air in. I have 4 air planets. I have Mars and Venus in Gemini, and I have Jupiter and Uranus in Libra. So I think, I think I have plenty of air. Ever since I could read at like 4 years old, I've had a book in front of my face. I love books. I love to read. I love information. My South Node is in Virgo. So even though that's an earth sign, it's ruled by Mercury. So yeah, air has never been a problem. And even though it's not in my big three.
Right.
And yeah. And that Mars and Venus are in the 11th house, so they're above the horizon. So, you know, it's really relevant. And one thing I want to say about that 5-planet stellar with the 5 planets in the 11th house. And it's so interesting, this practical, stable Taurus who likes things fixed, who likes things the way they are. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. I'm so reliable. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, 99.5% of the time I do it. Like I just have this real need to keep my commitments. But one thing that a realization I came to like a year or so ago is I can make friends wherever I go. And it's important because I've been thinking of moving
Okay.
somewhere less hectic or out of the city where I can
Right.
see the night sky better. I live in
Right.
Oakland, which is a small city. And yeah, so that's also like a combo of the air. I'm mixing the questions together.
No worries.
Gemini, Gemini moon in the sky.
That's me
So,
every
and
single day.
yeah, and that Aries moon, I like to have fun at work. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Did you
think
have
I could
fun?
have.
Did you have fun in the corporate world? Because
Oh yes,
some people do.
sometimes too much fun. Yes, yeah, like yeah, I can like raise the vibe of a group where everybody's sitting there all dour and everything, and then I come in and it's like, no, we are not going to just be bored, and we're going to have a little bit of fun if I am leading this meeting. Yeah, and then yeah, that Cancer rising, people have been drawn to me my whole life in terms of like coming to me for counsel or telling me their deepest secrets, and I've wondered why. And then I had some friends that called me mama, Mama Celeste. It's
Aww.
like, yeah, this was before I even knew I was a Cancer rising. Yeah,
Oh,
so
really?
I've always had like this exuded this mothery safe place energy to other people, so I see that as how it's come out. But I have Uranus at my IC. So it's like I've never had any dreams of having a big family myself,
Right.
but I've always found family where I am. I grew up in New Jersey and I moved
Okay.
lived 3,000 miles away from my family. But yeah, move up to Sonoma. I love Sonoma. Yes, I do. It's on my list, but I'm worried about fires in California. That's another thing. Tennessee. Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready for the South. I think I might be too much for the Mason, below the Mason-Dixon line. Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah.
Nikki Tarot Astrology said, my daughter has a Gemini moon in her 9th house. I just realized that. It's why she's always telling people facts about stuff. The moon works so interestingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. If someone has a Gemini moon, they really need to, to understand the facts. That's the child that's like, why? But why? But why? But
Yeah,
why?
that was me.
That my sister has a Gemini moon. That's what she was like. Rosemary asked about Mars and Cancer, and maybe the question was about like not wanting a big family and all that stuff. And yes, yeah, Mars and Cancer could be about related to that. Yeah.
So, okay, so we're here to talk about the nodes. We went over your big three. Um, my interpretation of the nodes is the North Node for me, and like what I talk to my clients about is, and I've gotten this from Dara Duvernay. She lives in California as well, and she has a course on North Node, and she calls it North Noding. But she talks about how it's like your soul's shining star, and like the wish that your soul wants in this lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what you need to move towards this lifetime. It's destiny. It's the way in which we've reached Dharma. Whereas the South Node is attached to past lives, many lives, connected to karma. And then Dara says it's a really good thing to talk about, how the South Node can be like this comfortable brown squishy sofa, and that you get really comfortable there, but you don't like realize that might be hindering you. So what do you say to your clients about like north and south node.
Yeah, so I love that, the brown squishy sofa. And so I think it's also about like what we learned in our families. It's about what's habitual, what's comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
we've developed what's comfortable, whether it's from past lives or how we grew up in our families.
Right.
And we can, especially in times of stress, go to the shadow side of our south node.
Right.
But it also holds talents. It holds
does.
some just innate talents. And the north node is always 180 degrees away. It's an opposition. Oppositions are as far apart as two planets can be, or people can be, or ideas can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there is a nature of, there's something that connects them because they're the same mode, cardinal, fixed, and mutable.
Mm-hmm.
And they are of compatible, what do you call yin and yang?
Yeah.
Like they're yin sangs. I'm like looking for a word. They're yin sangs and yang sangs.
Right. They're polar opposite on the zodiac wheel, but they do, like, they're somehow connected. They're yin and yang. They balance each other out.
Yes. Yeah. So the north node is a stretch. It's uncomfortable. It can be like, I think like the south node can be the Reese's peanut butter cup, and the north node can be the celery and the carrots at the party that you should eat, but oh, it's so much easier to eat the
that's actually
so
really
much easier to eat the brie dip or whatever.
Right.
So it can be an uncomfortable stretch, but it can give you so much. There's so much growth in the north node, and yeah, mine's in Pisces, and learning how to just trust and believe and receive. This is a mantra I'm telling myself a lot right now. Is something, rather than like getting
control
into perfectionism with my south node, control freak, anxiety, worry, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, in Virgo. Yeah. So it's so much easier to just like go into the freak out mode rather than
I know. Yeah, so your north
trust.
Your north node is in Pisces, south node in Virgo. If anybody has that, put that in the chat. But that's like letting go. That's the Pisces north node versus being in control, which is the Virgo south node. And not only is it polar opposite signs, like polarities in the sign, but it's also like opposite houses. So there's that undertone with whatever house the north node falls into. So your north node is in the 10th, right?
No, the 9th.
The 9th. Okay, so the 9th, and then the south node is in the 3rd, and that the 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius, and the south are and then the 3rd house is ruled by Gemini. So it's like you almost have this like international affairs versus domestic affairs, and like a broadcaster versus like a journalist, and like big picture versus like zippy informative. So not only is it like Pisces and Virgo, but there's also that Gemini Sagittarius undertone. Mm-hmm. So how was the eclipses for you last year when it was Gemini Sag?
Yeah, well, that Gemini Sag, so on November 30th of, was it 2019? Yeah, it was 2019 when there was an eclipse at 8 Gemini, I believe. That was on my Venus. And that, like, in the dark, it wasn't in the dark, but I didn't realize what was going on. It was a lunar eclipse. That kind of started really setting me free from my career, because Venus can be the money we make in the 11th house from the work we do.
And that's when we were in Beginners Astrology together, right? 2019 of November.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's so funny.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, those were really, they were big for me, is what I'm trying to say, going around the block. Really big for me. I knew I wanted to leave my corporate career. I intended to do it at the end of last year, and the eclipses brought it rushing in faster.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did it in May rather than December. So yeah, so those eclipses were really impactful for me.
Yeah,
So if you,
definitely. Because
yeah, and
it's almost
mhm.
like an eclipse is like when we're in the eclipse portal, it's like a catapult where it can
It
really.
really, yeah, eclipses bring things rushing in. And if you look at my solar chart and put Taurus in the first house,
Right.
Gemini falls in the second house. So the house of money and resources, and that lunar eclipse there, or that constant activation over the
Right.
27-month cycle, leaving the way I made money behind and bringing in a new way. Yeah.
So I have a North Node in Capricorn. And I'm a Capricorn rising too. So
Mm.
when you know when the eclipse season happened in Cancer and Capricorn before Gemini and Sag. So like really like when the pandemic kind of first, well, it wasn't like it was around. I mean like I'm thinking back of like when the nodes were in Cancer and Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm a North Node Capricorn and the North Node was in Cancer, I did feel like there was like that friction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, can you touch on that for this upcoming eclipse season, since you are a Taurus sun and the North Node is now in Taurus, the South Node is in Scorpio? If anybody here is listening and they have a North Node in Scorpio and upcoming on these eclipses, how is that going to be for them? What do you recommend? Like, I don't know, any of your moon wisdom.
Yeah. So if your North Node is in Scorpio, now the South Node's in Scorpio. So at some time over the next year and a half. So the North Node went into Taurus on January 18th, and it'll
Yep.
be there till July of 2023. And you are going to be having a nodal reversal, which means I think of it like a mirror. So there will be people coming into your life or situations happening where you will be confronted with where you are on your journey of leaving some Taurus things behind and moving towards Scorpio things. So leaving some of that not wanting to change behind in order to grow, in order to be able to like reinvent yourself. Yeah, you'll see all kinds of things, and you'll have people maybe flying out of your life and others flying in your life. There will be something you're releasing from the house that South Node is going through. Yeah, over the next year and a half. And it might be uncomfortable. That's more uncomfortable than when you have a nodal return. So people who have North Node and Taurus are having a nodal return where there can be new allies, new opportunities. The North Node can bring gains in, and the South Node release things. So it's a lot more comfortable to have a nodal return rather than the nodal reversal.
Yes.
Yeah, but both of these are for your evolutionary growth.
Exactly. Exactly. So Nikki's tarot and astrology, she brought up a good point, and she goes, and I'll touch on this really quickly because she says since the South Node is in Scorpio, does that affect a North Node in the 8th house? And yes, but also I think it's good to pull up your natal birth chart and see, okay, where's my North Node? What sign is it in? But like, where is it in the house? So I have a Capricorn North Node in the 1st house. So even though it's in Capricorn, there is an underlying message with Aries there because it's in the 1st house, which is ruled by Aries. And my South Node is in Cancer. And then it's in the 7th, which has that undertone of Libra. So maybe that will help kind of understand. But I feel like, Celeste, do you think that if having a Scorpio North Node, will it activate your 8th house?
Well, 8th house topics potentially. Yeah, because there's all about, that life, death, that cycle, life, death, resurrection cycle.
Right.
That's a very eighth house thing. It's about resources. How do you share resources with other people? Power, pleasure, as well as resources. Can you enjoy some simple pleasures, or do you have to go to extremes? Scorpio can like be going to a bit of extremes. Can you? I think a big call for all of us is going to be around healing trauma. Yeah, so that's
Yes.
a eighth house theme about deep psychological processes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, my interpretation is that, we were talking, you made this point how like we have a society that's very solar. So it's like,
Hmm.
let's keep moving that young energy. And Taurus is it's a feminine sign, it's the yin. And so, because the North Node is in Taurus, maybe we'll invite that more of that divine feminine energy, the yin energy in more and more as we heal the trauma connected to Scorpio.
I certainly hope so.
I
I
do too.
certainly hope so because we've been through a global trauma unlike anything we've,
I know.
in the last 100 since World War II.
I know.
Um, you know, and it's like there is so much healing that needs to happen. And I think around us, we'll see in our lives, we'll see people like just acting out even more. Like last year, a lot of the stories were acting out on airplanes, the Sagittarius, South Node and Sagittarius flavor. So, but with North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, this acting out can be like we're seeing increases, unfortunately, in crime or violence. That can be South Scorpio shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing some of that, and then a lot of things, which is kind of maybe kind of shocking to people, is there's a lot more like graphic sex talk on that I'm seeing popping up now
Really?
that this. Oh, yes, I've seen a few things just on Instagram. Like sometimes it's good. I'm not a prude, but there was anyway. I'm not going to
Hell
bring
no,
it up
you're not
because it was
you're
so graphic. I was like, what is it?
I don't
Yeah,
think I
just
don't think anyone with a fire sign is approved. Or with like a moon
yeah.
fire sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm Jupiter and Libra. I like a little elegance, okay? Let's talk about it, but we don't have to get so graphic around Scorpio rules the exit of our bodies, our
Right,
bowels and
right, right.
our sex organs and stuff like that. But anyway,
Well,
sorry,
I
I'm
mean, like,
going
and
off on
it's
a tangent.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, like Ghislaine Maxwell's case. That's a big topic. That's kind of like, whoa, like we didn't know that like this was going on, back in the 1990s, and we're talking about it and that type of thing. So,
Yeah, a lot of this is good, like sex trauma or things. It's
yeah,
good to really be talking about. Yeah, yeah,
right,
and like letting go of the shame around
right.
like if there's any sex abuse and things like that. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Um, so okay, so like also like just to point out that I just see so much more like stickers in like bathrooms about like if you're being human trafficked, like call this
Oh
number. I
yeah.
used to never see that, but when I'm traveling, I'll go into the bathroom and I'll see that, and I'm like, well, that's good that there's like awareness around this, because for a long time ago, I just never saw those types of stickers like in even the bathroom on an airplane. So
Yeah, that's been going on for a few years. Yes, and I think like I had no idea. Apparently, the Atlanta airport, there is like a lot of businessmen or whatever would fly in and go to hotels nearby, and there's a huge sex traffic thing going on
wow.
there, and it's other places as well. So I think those are very helpful. If you see something, say
Mm-hmm.
something. If you see like a young girl or a young
Right.
boy looking like they're being coerced or something,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Okay, want to switch gears because we have about 20 minutes left.
Sure.
And um, so, okay, So I had to tell you something exciting, and I feel like you're gonna find this exciting. But on October 25th, 2022, obviously there's an eclipse, and it's happening on my 31st birthday. And I
Oh,
am a Scorpio sun, so like for me, like I've talked with Rebecca. I've had a mini reading with her this year, and she was like talking about that. Do you have anything to say to me about that, or what I should maybe like look for or look forward
that's a
to?
big that's a big deal when you have an eclipse on your sun. Now, this is a South Node eclipse. What house is your sun in?
In the 10th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, like, what are you letting go of in the work you do in order to bring in new things?
Mm-hmm.
How are you? Maybe you're going to be shifting your identity, your corporate identity, yeah, or rebranding in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I think is a possibility. Yeah. And so there's new starts at the home and the root.
Right.
So even though it's like 10th house, 4th house, this could be something around relationship or
Mm-hmm.
letting go of some stuff out in the world to
Right.
do more nesting and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I
Yeah.
saw.
Oh, can someone push a heart or something? I'm wondering. I'm not making sure we're still connected.
Oh yeah, we're still connected. I see
Okay.
people. I see people coming in and out. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay,
no
good, good.
worries. Yeah, it's weird. Like I had my Saturn return, my first Saturn return on the Great Conjunction too. So this came up, and I was like, this is creeping me out a little bit, but like I'm just gonna roll with it.
You're connected into the collective some way.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, you make me feel better about it, so that's good. So
Yeah,
Celeste,
so your Saturn's at 0 Aquarius?
it's at yeah, it's either at 0 or 0 1. Yeah, no, it's at 0, and then it's like a couple minutes.
Wow, interesting. So, like a new start of how you're going to expand and what supports you're going to have beneath you.
Right,
What
right.
house is your Saturn in?
It's in the first house, right next to like all my
Ah,
Capricorn stellium. I have a Scorpio stellium in the 10th. I have a little activity going on in the 8th in Virgo.
mm.
So
So
yeah,
how can you, with Saturn in the first, with you like letting go of ways you've held yourself back potentially, or letting go of feelings of not being worthy enough, if that's something
right.
you have with Saturn in the first. And yeah, really step into your power with this eclipse coming on your sun.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and recognizing it and
Thank
growing. Yeah.
So Celeste, what's going on with you and Astrology by Celeste? Is there anything new that you're coming out with?
Yeah, so my Moon Mastery course is open for enrollment. This is a 6-week course where I teach live, and it's all about like connecting into the moon, lunar wisdom. You learn about your moon sign. You learn about where your progressed moon is. You learn about the moon phases and using the moon phases to set intentions and bring your goals into life. And yeah, it's just a tool for self empowerment and self understanding and self discovery, as well as manifesting your goals. And you get to see astrology in action with people. The class is interactive, and people will come up and we'll talk about what's going on with them and their moon and how they're experiencing that. So you can go to the link in my bio and find out about that. Tomorrow I'm teaching the astrology of love, which is going to be really interesting. That's a free webinar that I host on Zoom.
That's
And yeah,
fun.
I'm going to be throwing in some things people maybe hadn't heard about with the Magi astrologers and what they thought about love. And on Sunday, I'll do a Leo full moon webinar. So yeah, lots going on. You can also book a reading. I do events for people where, you can have a group of people on Zoom, and I can do them in person as well. But here in the Bay Area, or if you want to fly me somewhere, sure.
Yeah,
Ah!
go ahead and buy me a ticket too.
where we could talk about like it's really fun when you get to know people on a deeper level, when we talk about even just your sun, moon, rising, or your Mercury or whatever. And then I do one-on-one coaching. So I have all this experience in management and leadership and coaching. So yeah, we can use your chart and can talk about like, what do you want to make? I'm about practical steps forward to manifesting what you want, you know? Yeah.
That's great.
And
that's great.
Yeah, those are things I do.
Very cool. I'm thinking about when I used to work in the corporate world, I brought this really big book of astrology. This is before the course, that when we got certified, and I would be like asking my coworkers, hey, what's your birthday? I want to look up like what your sun sign is. And some of them would just be like, okay, yeah, cool. And then others would be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no worries. I'm just trying to figure out like what your working style is.
Oh, that's so funny. That's cute. Oh yeah, when I started really getting into astrology, I would practice on my coworkers. Yes, yeah.
So
people love talking about themselves.
I know they do.
Although occasionally people don't want to, like if they like have a lot of Scorpio energy, sometimes people like, what?
Right. I mean, it's astrology. Like when I think about it, I think about it as like a self-discovery tool, and it's a way to just learn more about yourself and, you know, not only lean into your strengths, but also be aware of your weaknesses. And when I was in college, I went to the University of Missouri and I worked at the Career Center there, and I was a Strengths Quest interpreter. So when I started to get certified.
Wait, what class interpreter?
Strengths Quest. It's actually it's a questionnaire that gives you your strengths at the in chronological order.
I thought you said drinks quest.
Strengths Quest.
Okay, I get it now.
And it chronologically ranks, like there's 25 strengths, and it ranks your number 1 all the way to 25, which 25 is considered your weakness. But once I started to do readings for people, I was like, this is kind of in the same vein, like Strengths Quest or like INFJ, the
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. And you know, now there's like a lot of different things where you have human design, and I think that there's like a lot of corporate jobs, you know, do those like wily work style. Like I did one of those when I worked at MSG. But it's just interesting because astrology is a lot like that. And depending on what type of astrologist you are, you know, you're saying you're taking practical. My readings are a little bit more, I like to go a little bit intimate. I call my readings astrotherapy. I like to kind of, as a Scorpio, I really do like to kind of see what's going on and how we can kind of dive in deep into the water and see what we can face and come out like, and just like learn about ourselves doing that. So it's just
I do that too in readings, depending on what people want to talk about. But one thing I want to make sure to say is Carl Jung, the psychotherapist, was an astrologer. And so he drew up birth charts for his clients, and he coined the term, I believe he coined the term, well, synchronicity, but I think he might have even coined the term archetypes, but I could be wrong about that.
Wow,
but
so cool.
All of that Myers-Briggs comes directly from his work. And there are, if you look at someone's birth chart, there are people who are really good at telling people what their ENT whatever is. Yeah.
So when people interact with Astrology by Celeste, how do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel understood. I want them to have compassion for themselves. I want them to feel inspired. Yeah, that's like inspired to take action for something that they want to bring into their lives.
Okay, I love that. And finally, Um, since we're
And they
in,
wanted to help them understand others better. One thing
right.
I did a lot when I was like I do a lot of birth charts for people's children, like
Mm-hmm.
especially if someone had a newborn, and then send them a little tape of just some like high level things about the child to try to help them be better parents, especially about the child's moon sign. So
Yeah,
yeah, all 5 planets in the 11th house of other people's children. That's just been something I've been called to do too.
that's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
Hmm.
And like finally, just to like wrap it up, since we are in Black History Month, how does it feel to be a Black woman in the space of astrology? And like, I don't know, I'm just curious, and I really really want to learn more and just understand, like from your perspective, how it's been and etc.
Oh, yes. Well, signing up for Moon Mastery can be people's contribution to Black history. It's open till next week. Anyway, I have found the astrology community so supportive of me.
Yeah.
I know last year at, what was it? Was it NCGR? The whatever happens in Seattle every year, that conference in May, there was a panel of Black astrologers, and a lot of them had really different experiences. And Sam Reynolds, who's a giant in the field of astrology, when he first got started, had a lot of some negative interactions. And as of yet, knock on wood, I haven't experienced
Good.
anything negative directly at me. I'm sure people make assumptions about me that I'm not aware of or anything, but I found it so far to be a safe space where,
I know
yeah.
it is such a safe space. Like I feel very well, are very like held in this space as well, and I think that everyone's very supportive, and I'm glad
Hmm.
that you're having that experience, and
And it's not everyone's experience. I've heard other,
right,
even
right,
younger than me astrologers have some negative feeling like they, or had some negative experiences
right.
being a Black astrologer. But yeah, I
How do you think we could amplify your voice and the voice of others in the space?
mm, well, share both of our information with some of your astrology adjacent friends who may be interested in following some new astrologers. Yeah, that helps amplifies. There's someone you like, sharing them with others is a way to amplify their voices, or like, yeah, just sharing tidbits about astrology with any
Right.
people who are open to it in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. I don't know if anybody wants to ask a question, but you can find us, or you can find Celeste at Astrology by Celeste. So if you don't follow her, you can follow her there.
Yeah, you don't even have to leave to follow me. You can click the little carrot at the top and you can follow both Kenzie and I. And yeah, go to the link in my bio. I have a lot of goodies. Like I have a setting intentions guide. I have syncing with the moon guide. You can learn about moon mastery.
Mm-hmm.
There's a link to my YouTube. I do a lot on YouTube. There's a
Oh,
lot of
good.
content. I do new moon and full moon videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how's the weather out in Oakland?
It is absolutely beautiful outside. It was chilly this morning, but it'll probably get up to 65 today. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Are you in New York City or where do you
yeah,
live?
yeah. I'm in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and it's about
Ah,
30, like between 35, 40 degrees. It's like,
yeah. And
and
what do you specialize in your practice? Why don't you tell people?
well, I do natal birth chart readings for people, and I also do numerology birthday charts
Ah,
as well. I've always been interested in numerology. I got a master's in accounting. So I
ah,
have the same type of like where I got a master's, I worked in auditing in the corporate world. I have appreciation towards numbers. I look at them as like if wasn't numbers, we wouldn't have the astrology chart. So I kind of marry the two, and that's why my handle is Ruby Jade. It has nothing to do with my name. I look at Ruby as the astrology and Jade as the numerology to my readings.
I love that. Yeah, I'm a life past 7, and like around the time of my opening Saturn square after my Saturn return, I got into numerology. And yeah, I was doing everybody would let me to numerology.
Yeah. Yeah.
I so connected with that. It like I always kind of felt that 11th house, like I'm from another world or something.
Yeah.
And then when I realized I was a life past 7, that explains so much about.
I love that. Yeah. I think in the future, I do want to offer services for people that passed away and doing like their chart when they've passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very drawn to that space. I'm coming out with a course surrounded on death, dying, grieving, and learning about the afterlife. And I think that will probably be a service that I'll provide. And it's, you know.
That's the eclipse. That's the eclipse on your side. Scorpio, hello.
Yeah, I've done it before. I've done it before with my nephew's chart that passed away almost 3 years ago. And it really, really gave me closure. So I think that will be something that I will offer soon.
Yeah, that's totally. And your Scorpio in the 10th house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course about that. So many people need that. That is so perfect with the South Node in Scorpio, learning from death and not trying to not fear it so much. Yes.
Right. I have Jupiter and Virgo in the 8th too, and Venus and Virgo in the 8th. So there is that, you know, I feel like there is an arrow pointing in that direction. So.
Oh, that's your call to that. Yes, definitely.
Well, Celeste, you're such a sweet person. I can tell. We've met before, and we've, you know, we didn't really talk, I think, when we were on that class, but you did interpret my chart. You were like so close to me, and I don't know. I feel like you're such a sweet person, and you do such a great job with your work. Like it's very inviting. It's fun, and like I love looking at your moon memos every day. So. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining today. It was really fun. Your Aries moon really showed off a little bit.
Well, thank you for the invitation. This was such a joy. And yeah, let's keep in touch. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your work grow even more and more. You do a great job with your interviews.
Oh, thank you. I know your work is going to do really well. I can't wait to hear about the success with your course. So take care, and happy early Valentine's Day.
Oh, you too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.